Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast, and this is I suppose it's like the proper Christmas edition of the football podcast. Because of that, it's a little bit different. Obviously, it'll all be explained, it'll all make sense to a degree. But yes, this is very much the Christmas edition of the football podcast. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave reviews where you can leave reviews. And obviously the big one, the one that we like the most there, share the podcast around. Word of mouth is an amazing thing for podcasting. So share the podcast around. And that way, more podcasts. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Hello all, one and all, welcome back to the CookieCast football podcast, and I hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas and festive period. All of us, we've had our fill, we've tucked in, we've imbibed, we've had a whale of a time. Maybe not. Full disclosure, we're doing this a little bit ahead of time so we can have a little bit of downtime over the festive period and not have to bring you live podcasting, as it were. So, from last week, obviously, we brought you 6 predictions last week. Well, not a lot more than 6 predictions. 6 games. And also, obviously, as at time of recording, those 6 games are yet to take place, so we can't go through our predictions for those 6 games. What we can do, however, is bring you our predictions for this week's upcoming games. So we will start with the Premier League fixture and just frantically trying to check the dates. Yes, Sunday, 29th of December, we see Everton taking on Nottingham Forest. Obviously, this is Mr. Moore's team. Therefore, he will give his prediction last. I'll start us off here. I've gone for a 2-1 away win. I've gone for Doucouré to score for Everton. And then a goal piece for Milinkovic and Gibbs-White. Obviously, Milinkovic coming off the back of a couple of games where he scored in a row against Manchester United and Aston Villa. Will he be able to keep it going? Fingers crossed. Stu, what have we got now for Everton versus Forest?
I've got a 1-1 draw. I've got Ndiaye for Everton, and I've got Murillo for the Forest.
Andy?
I've got a 1-2 Forest win. I've got Young for Everton. And then Wood and Awoniyi for Forest.
Now, I'll have to get clarification from Mr. Moore on this one. Technically not an old boy, and I don't think he ever played for Forest, but big Forest fan and potentially once on the books at Forest Dyche.
Hey, it didn't last very long. I think he came as part of a deal for Ian Butterworth as well. I think him and Sean Dyche came through the door, and first training session, I think Cloughie put it on with a few extra words in there. Couldn't trap a bag of cement, and was quickly moved on, kind of thing.
Is the reason he couldn't trap the bag of cement because he ate it before?
I think it was you son can't control a bag of fucking cement. Get off, and that was it. I think he was a boyhood Forest fan as well, being from the area, and devastated would be the end of it. Which, I mean, just it's quite harsh, but don't be shit would be the also the feedback in that as well.
So you're not convinced on this one. I saw you shaking your head vehemently at the thought of mine and Andy's 2-1 away win.
We just don't win at Everton. I
Ah.
can't remember the last time we won at Everton. We didn't win at Everton last year. Don't think we won the year before that. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. With Calvert-Lewin scoring for Everton and Anderson scoring for Forest. But yeah, we very rarely beat Sean Dyche teams as well. I don't know, like Burnley and like other teams. Well, that's the only other team I can remember him managing. So yeah, for whatever reason, Forest don't beat his teams and we don't beat Everton. So it'd be nice to get one, maybe to get a win as they sail off to their new stadium that is floating slightly in the Mersey. But yes, 1-1 draw I've got.
Very nice. We move to our second game of Sunday, the 29th of December, where we see Blackburn Rovers taking on Hull City. This is obviously repeat of the fixture from a few weeks back, as we may notice with our next game, Middlesbrough versus Burnley. Obviously, it's Mr. Woodmansey's team. He'll give his prediction last. Let's go back to Matt for his prediction on Blackburn versus Hull.
I've gone for a Blackburn 2-1 win. They seem to have really hit their stride recently.
Yeah,
and considering they lost Smodic, it makes it doubly hilarious because obviously Birmingham sacked John Eustace and he's doing an absolutely awesome job at Blackburn. So I've got, is it Gahey, their striker?
Yeah.
Gueye and Cozier Dewberry.
Yep, I'm sure what you just said there was words.
Yeah, and then Bedia for Hull.
Bedia. Cozier Dewberry. I believe I looked at the fact that he had scored in their last fixture and was like, oh, no.
I just went, what's all
like that one
right?
several times over. I'm in agreement on this one. I think Blackburn are probably the form team of the championship at the moment. So I've gone for a 2-0 on this one. Unfortunately, I've gone for Cantwell, and I've also gone for Gay. Andy?
Hull to win 1-0.
Oh, lovely.
After Stu's wonderful review of this player, I'm now feeling that picking Kamara might not have been the right goalstone. Here we are.
Hey, give a room full of monkeys a typewriter and one of them will write the works of Shakespeare at some point.
It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times.
Get out, you. Are we to presume from that you are not optimistic about the trip to Ewood Park?
Me? Oh, no. Having sat through the recent turnover at home, I'm not full of glee about this one. I've gone also for a Blackburn 2-1 win. I've got Cantwell and Ohashi. And then just to rub salt into the wound a little bit, I've gone for Longman because he's overdue now.
Our third game of the week, as we said before, sees my boys Middlesbrough taking on Burnley. The repeat of a couple of weeks ago. The game. It's my theme, therefore I will go last. Let's do it the same again. We'll go straight back to Stu with his prediction on Middlesbrough versus Burnley.
You'll be pleased that you've come straight back to me for this hugely lengthy prediction on the basis that I was having a look through the results for both sides and it feels like quite a long time since they've had a 0-0 draw, so you're welcome.
Do you know what? I'll save it. Matt?
I've gone for a 0-1. Gonna come into the River Dance. Oh boy. Brownhill to score. Feel dirty to say it, particularly with that expensive card he wearing. managing them.
He's a bit of a tit, but yeah, it is what it is. By the way, I forgot to mention this game not being played at 3 p.m. on a Sunday. The football league have decided to do the Burnley fans a massive solid and put this game at 8 p.m. on a Sunday, so that the travel back from Middlesbrough will be just delightful for those Burnley fans to go back across the Pennines at 10:30 midnight or something like that. Lovely. Andy?
What about 2-1?
Hang on a second, sorry, Andy. Stu's saying all this stuff on mute.
Yeah, no, I realised that about halfway through, but yeah, if my prediction of 0-0 comes true, they'll be mega happy at that time of night as well, having tricked him back to seeing an absolute thriller.
Yep, probably piss it down. Probably be about 1 degree. It's going to be an absolute barnstorm for a minute. Sorry to have cut you off there, Mr. Green. Did you say 2-1 to the Borough?
I did indeed. Latte to score and Azaz. And I have also gone with Brownhill.
Yeah. Contemplated it myself. I believe I picked him in the earlier game of the season. I'm kind of in agreement with Stu on this one. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a 0-0, sort of drab, bit boring, bit sort of like backs to the wall and stuff like that. But I have gone for a 1-1 draw on this one. I've gone for Conway and Sarmiento at the goal. Sarmiento looked quite good in the game earlier in the season, so I won't be surprised if he notches on this one. And then our final game to look forward to sees the first game of 2025 to be played. And they couldn't have picked a better fixture, as it is Hull City versus Middlesbrough. Again, a repeat of a fixture that was played not all that long ago. One of those curious sort of quirks of the fixture list. Don't mind it though. I always think it's best for like festive fixtures to be played between teams that are quite close to each other in the sort of the country. Like Nottingham Forest versus Tottenham.
It serves them. The Spuds are coming up to Forest. It serves them right.
So, Hull versus Borough. Technically, mine and Mr. Woodmansey's team. Obviously, as Borough are playing away from home, I will give my prediction last. So let's go to Matt for his prediction on Hull versus the Borough.
I've gone for a Borough win for this one. I've gone Pedro for Hull and Latte Laugh and Conway for the Borough.
Latte Laugh, Conway in here. 1, 2. Andy?
Almost no surprises on this. I think I've predicted this every time. It's a 1-1 draw. I have Burstow for Hull. And no surprises. I've got Latte for the Borough.
Now, the only question that I'm sure everyone on the podcast has is how many of those splinters, or how long were you there pulling those splinters out of your ass from sitting on that fence with your 1-1 draw? You love to see it.
I can't do it. I'm just like everyone wins or nobody wins. How about that?
You love it. You love to see it. Go on, Mister. I'm assuming you'll be there.
Yep, and as Andy quite rightly points out, nobody wins, particularly those that are sat in the Hull end. So I've gone for a reverse of what happened previous in the sense of 1-3. I've also got Pedro for Hull. And then I've got, just because I'll be really, really, really fucked off if this happens, I've got Bergzorg and Azaz, but the cherry on this particular shit heap would be a goal from one Mr. Luke Ayling.
I knew it the moment you said it. I was like, yeah, I know what's going on.
Well, did leave the Millwall game early with an injury,
Right.
But I think at the time of recording, I don't know how serious that was. So obviously he's got a number of games to get through to sort of like get to that point. So I think he's probably going to be all right. I haven't seen anything that says that he's not looking likely to play. So, excuse me. I too have gone with a Borough win, but I've gone 2-1. I was in attendance for a 3-1 Borough win at Hull a couple of seasons ago, in what was one of Michael Carrick's first games in charge, I believe. So I've gone for a Kamara goal for Hull. I've obviously not heeded the warnings of Mr. Woodmansey from previous shows about the qualities or lack thereof of Mr. Kamara. And then I've gone for a goal each for Latte, Lat and Azaz. This one, I believe, is also live on the Sky Sports Telebox, but I believe it's a 5 o'clock kickoff. 5:30. 5:30 on the Sky Sports football channel. So big boy Sky, no less. Yeah, that's it. 4 games. 4 festive fixtures. Hopefully we'll bring some goals and a bit of festive cheer for our boys. That brings us to the end of the predictions. But I believe, Mr. Woodmansey, you've got a little story you'd like to share with relation to football.
Well, speaking of the festive cheer, as regular listeners might have picked up from the odd mention here and there, and obviously as you gentlemen know, my 2 boys attend the Louis Coyle Football Academy. A little bit of a shout out from there because they are very good. They go down on a Monday night to Craven Park nowadays, and this week's was Christmas Fun Week. So it was like, what's this going to be? The boys, straight into the spirit of it, they wore their full kit and a Santa hat, which, me being not particularly Christmassy, I think was more of a wind-up to their old man than anything else. Anyway, the training session and the games and the fun kicked off for the kids, and we see Mr. Louis Coyle appear at the side of the pitch for the grown-ups, not in a training capacity for the kids this week. He rocked up with what can only be described as the world's biggest fucking Nespresso machine I have ever seen. It was like industrial. It had like cupboard doors on it. It was so big. And out of his own pocket, provided teas and coffees, mince pies, biscuits, the lot for all of the parents who were stood watching, which I thought was very nice. And he didn't just leave people to do it. He cracked on. He was actually making the coffees for people. So whilst he was trying to work out how to use the world's biggest Nespresso and not accidentally trap one of the other coaches in the third door of the machine, we was having a little chat about like Christmas and stuff, and it was dead personable. He was asking like what we was doing with the boys and all that kind of stuff. And I said to him, "So I bet you must get this all the time though. But like, what do you do? Because like, do you have to go to work? Like, you've got the game the next day." And we'd sort of been saying that we're coming across to Preston, and he was like, "Oh yeah, funny, me too." But he was saying that I think it was in the last 11 years, there's only one manager that he's had that made him work Christmas Day, and he wouldn't name that manager, which is fair enough. That's his prerogative. I got the distinct impression that they had been scheduled to be working this Christmas Day had the previous regime still been in charge. But he did allude to the fact that they've been given Christmas Day off now, with the only instruction of don't overindulge. I took that immediately as don't get shit-faced, because he went on to explain that he thinks that the most difficult part of Christmas Day for a footballer is you've had your dinner, you're pretty full, you'll have done the presents with the family, you'll be nice and happy now, all will be good, and then it gets that sort of lull between sort of like 6:30 and 7:30 at night, and people start to dip in for a second go. And yeah, in fact, he said that's the most difficult part, because he said if he starts to eat any of like the seconds at that time of night, they're travelling to the away gate. Obviously, they normally travel the night before, but with it being Christmas, they're travelling on the morning. And he was like, yeah, some of the lads might have to push me up the steps onto the team coach if I start dibbing in for seconds. But the best part of this was during the entire conversation, whilst making coffee, he also spent at least 3 minutes trying to wrestle open a tub of celebrations. And then, as a professional sportsman, stood next to so many pastries and so many sweets, was like, oh man, I can't. Oh, I really shouldn't. Oh, I'm not going to eat that. I can't eat that. He didn't eat any of it, but it was really nice to see a professional sportsman have the same struggle that I would have stood next to all that food as well. So it really made me chuckle. And he's a good lad. He's a really nice bloke. Great with the kids. And turns out, if the football thing doesn't work out, barista as well. So
it's that thing of like, if everybody had to weigh in somewhere and be shamed in front of their fellow colleagues, then you probably wouldn't eat, that kind of thing, because that's most sport people are like, right, yeah, every week, right, everybody gets on the scales, everybody looks at you, why have you put on 2 kilos, you fatty, and then like extra running for you and stuff like that. I can't think who it was, and it was somebody. It must have been. I can't think which podcast I was listening to, and it was this footballer, and it was. I think it was somewhere between Christmas, and it was the weigh-in, and he was like, "Oh, I'm fucked here because I've like done the opposite of Louis Coyle. I've gone hard on the Christmas dinner. I've gone hard on the leftovers. I've gone hard on the buffet through the kind of thing, and now I'm gonna be." And he was just walked in, and he was like 4 kilos. Which you think that's nearly £10 that he's put on, and he was just like the manager was like, yeah, running lots and lots of running for you today, and to which as he was running, it was basically, you've got the energy because you've put away so much food over Christmas, you fat bastard.
I mean that screams Andy Reid to me.
That would be the Guinness. I mean, he would be hitting the food, but that would be the drink. Andy Reid would hit the drink hard.
I was going to say that's kind of the thing here, because I almost sort of think, in a kind of weird way, it'd probably be better for them to just get pissed, because they can just sweat that out the next day, and they can get rid of that a lot easier than they would sort of like, an entire tub of chocolates or something like that.
I think nowadays that the problem is like even lower down as well. I suppose it's the effect on the body long term. So if you drink, if you have a lot to drink, you know how you feel like the next day and the day after and the day after. Your body's still recovering. So through a football match, you need your liver and your kidneys to be working properly to filter stuff out and help you kind of perform like that. So it doesn't matter what you do. If you've had like a heavy couple of days over the Christmas time, you're not going to be at peak performance. And I think it's good that like obviously he said that he has a Christmas dinner, and when you look at a Christmas dinner, it's not. Is it nutritionally perfect? No, but is it far off? Pardon?
A lot of veg usually.
Yeah.
Depends on how it's cooked, though. That's the kind of but then on the flip side of that, there'll be some cracker people who will be eating their pasta and rice and their standard stuff ready to go and play, which you kind of think it's a bit sad, really, but But yeah, that's it. Bless him. I'll have my Christmas dinner and I won't be touching the second. Well, everybody else is tucking in. I'll be furious. I'll be like, put some of that in a Tupperware for me. I'm taking it with me.
That should be the rule. It should be if they're getting back on the bus with 3 points after the game, then as many seconds from the moment that you leave the away venue on the bus, just have like the team chef microwaving the shit out of it. That'd be it.
I was going to say, that should be it.
Buffet table set up down the middle of the coach.
The chef on the bus should basically sort of like have just an entire tray of sausages wrapped in bacon just ready to go. If they've won the game, just roast off 400 sausages wrapped in bacon, and just throw them at the lads and just be like, "There you go, fellas, off you go." Just get them down here. How far is the journey from Preston back to Hull? 2.5 hours?
Yeah, it's about 2.5. It's not. It's
just straight
it's
on the
one,
M62, isn't it? So.
Yeah, it's one of the ones for us where if you're gonna get it as an away game on that day, I like thank fuck it in Plymouth. You know, like they do tend to try and keep it relatively near, unless you're Tottenham. But generally speaking, we've had quite easy journeys on Boxing Day certainly from memory. I remember one year me and Rich went to the heady far off capital of culture that is Crewe. That was an interesting away day trip. But I think we drew 2-2 that day as well. But my distinct memory from that day is, you know how Christmas does stupid things to people. Rich wore a black and amber wig for most of that game, like an black and amber afro wig.
Perfect. Obviously, in the last podcast, it completely escaped me the fact that the Borough fans have got to make the long, arduous slog down to Plymouth the week before Christmas.
Yeah.
So, that
must be one of the longest journeys in the league. That must.
Well, it'll only be outdone by Sunderland, won't it? So.
Yeah.
Well, that was a very nice way to end the podcast this week. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Woodmansey. Obviously, if you're new here, if this is your first time tucking into the podcast, why not think about subscribe to the channel? It's not just us here on the football podcast. We also are getting over the wrestling podcast that comes to you once a month. We have the weekly NFL podcast. There's the boys over at the Straight to the Apex Formula One podcast, and then Mr. Cook likes to bring you the Darkest Timeline podcast, where he just unloads that brain once a week, gets it out there. Perfect. Thank you, as always, to you for tuning in, for listening, for watching. Thank you to these three gentlemen for spending the time to go through the predictions of their teams. Obviously, Happy New Year to anyone who is listening and anyone who's watching. Join us again next week, where we'll bring you the results of those 4 games, and we'll look forward to the next set of fixtures, which I believe will bring FA Cup games for our 3 teams. Oh, is that the week after?
After, yeah.
I've gone too early. Again, seems to be the case.
When you say FA Cup games as well, you mean the one that my team will feature in this year?
The Borough got drawn at home against Blackburn. I honestly cannot remember the last time Borough got a positive result at home to Blackburn. So, wouldn't be surprised if Borough's involvement in the FA Cup this season is very short-lived, as it was last season. But yes, tune in next week, where we will do it all over again. Until then, thank you very much. As always, take care of yourselves, keep an eye out for each other. We will see you next week. Bye. For now.
So there you go, what do you think to that? Another one done, another one gone. Almost another year gone. Oh, where does it all go? Thank you for watching, listening, being a part of the football podcast for this year, as part of this season. And yes, join us for more fantastic football podcasts in 2025. Definitely the future. Before you leave us, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave reviews where you can leave reviews. And check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There's social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. That is it for this year. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, thank you for being here, and until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.